This branch might look completely wrong on a bonsai, but it could be the reason why the trunk gets thick. Today I'm showing you 5 of my trees, exactly why I'm growing these sacrifice branches, and most importantly when I plan to remove them. If you're trying to build a bonsai with a thick powerful trunk, one of the biggest mistakes is trying to make the tree look like a finished bonsai too early. You want growth, hard fast growth. These are sacrifice branches. They aren't necessarily part of the final design. Their job is to help the trunk thicken while the tree is still in its development stage. And every tree here is at a different stage, so let's get straight into it and show you all 5. First up is this Japanese maple, and this is exactly what I'm looking for when I'm developing trunk thickness. As this branch grows strongly, the trunk underneath responds by adding thickness, and that's exactly what we're after. And here's the important part: we cannot leave the sacrifice branch growing forever. Once I've got enough thickness in this section of the trunk, I'll remove it and allow the tree to move into the next stage of development. And next up is this crab apple. This one's really important. It shows that the sacrifice branch doesn't have to look pretty. At this stage, I'm much more interested in growth than appearance. This branch has helped me build a trunk before I worry about refining the tree. Look at where this branch comes from. This is the part that I want to thicken. The mistake would be cutting this back too early, simply because it doesn't look like a finished bonsai. For now, I'm letting it work. And this wheat gum is a perfect example of why patience matters. When you're growing a tree, you'll have to accept that you won't have a finished bonsai for some time, but that's completely fine. This branch is here for a reason: growth. The longer and stronger I allow the tree to grow, the more development I can get from this part of the trunk. This Deshojo maple is where things get interesting. With a tree like this, I want to build a trunk and primary structure before I spend too much time worrying about fine ramification. This is the section I'm trying to develop, so this branch is earning its place. Once the trunk reaches the thickness I'm looking for, I'll remove the sacrifice branch and start refining the tree. Sorry, it's hot out here, and this brings us to the 5th tree. And finally we have this buxus. This is a reminder that sacrifice branches are not just for one tree species. The principle is exactly the same: allow strong growth where you need development, let that growth help build a trunk, and then remove the branch when it's done its job. I'm not trying to make this finished bonsai today. I'm growing the raw material first that will eventually become a bonsai. And that's really the mindset behind all 5 of these trees. I'm willing to make them look rough now because I'm thinking about what I want them to look like years from now. So, when do we remove a sacrifice branch? Well, there is no magic number. You remove it when the trunk has reached the thickness and development you're aiming for. And you also need to think about where that branch is attached, because removing a huge branch can leave a large wound. The biggest mistake I see people make is cutting these sacrifice branches off because they look ugly. Well, that's what it's meant to look like. They're temporary growth engines. Once they've done their job, then remove them. So we've got 5 trees, 5 sacrifice branches, but the same goal: build that trunk first. Let them grow strongly. Watch the trunk. Don't rush the cut, and remember that you're building the future bonsai, not trying to finish it today. Well, you've seen a sacrifice branch, but what happens when it's finally time to cut them off? That's when things start to get interesting. 5 trees, 5 sacrifice branches, all working towards the same goal: a thicker trunk. Now let's see what happens when it's time to cut them.